Welcome back to likely the final eShop sales video before Christmas. And this is probably going to be a little off tone for this time of year. So to all of you merry folk out there, I apologise in advance. I know, it's Christmas time, but I had to include a few horror games. Remember, if you find anything you like or just enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe for the usual Switch shenanigans. But with that said, clear some space in your backlog and let's dive right in. I'm going to start this week with a loud and unapologetically action-heavy game. The Zombie Army trilogy is a third-person shooter built around constant pressure, large enemy hordes, and straightforward objectives. In the dying flames of World War II, a legion of undead soldiers threaten to overwhelm the whole of Europe. It takes the Sniper Elite Foundation and pushes it firmly toward arcade-style chaos. The enemies come at you relentlessly, levels are clearly structured, and there's very little downtime. The gunplay feels solid, especially when lining up shots through crowds, and the variety of weapons keeps encounters from getting stale. It also works well with both solo and co-op, which adds flexibility depending on how you want to play. There's a surprising amount of content here across all of the campaigns and modes, making it easy to come back to and sink well over 30 hours into. At £4.49 or your country's equivalent, this really is excellent value for a fast, satisfying, brain-dead shooter that knows exactly what it wants to be. Zombie Army Trilogy is 85% off until January the 3rd in the UK and Europe and January the 4th in North America. And hey, who doesn't want to shoot Nazi zombies over the festive period? And this next one is an absolute phenom. I'm sure we all know what Hollow Knight is, but just in case you don't, it's a Metroidvania built around exploration, precision combat, and a deeply atmospheric world. With its tight and incredibly responsive controls, the movement is fantastic, the combat rewards patience, and enemy patterns are designed to be learned rather than brute forced. The world unfolds slowly, encouraging curiosity and exploration, and although there are some difficulty curves, it's fair, and every improvement feels earned through skill rather than grinding. The soundtrack and environmental storytelling do a lot of heavy lifting, creating a mood that sticks with you. There's also a huge amount of content here, including optional areas and bosses that really test your mastery. Hollow Knight is £5.49 or your currency's equivalent, and to this day remains one of the strongest action games on the Switch at basically any price. It's currently 50% off until December 31st in the UK and Europe, but unfortunately it is not yet on sale in North America. This next game was a massive surprise to me. Return of the Obra Dinn is a mystery and deduction game built entirely around observation and logic. There's no combat at all. Instead, you're piecing together what happened to the crew of a lost ship by studying frozen moments in time and identifying who everyone was and how they died. What I absolutely loved about this game is how much it trusts you as a player. You're not guided towards answers, and there's no checklist telling you what to do next. You really need to pay attention, make connections, and sometimes sit with uncertainty until something clicks. The stark monochrome art style isn't just a visual choice. It keeps your focus on details that actually matter. I really didn't expect to like this game, but as soon as I got into the story, it just reels you in, and you find yourself wanting to know who everyone is, how they died, and what really happened aboard the Obra Dinn. Right now, it is £12.05 or your regional equivalent, and a rather moderate 33% discount until January the 1st in the UK and Europe, and January the 2nd in the US. Weirdly though, this isn't on sale in Canada. Return of the Obra Dinn is a strangely captivating experience and absolutely worth it for a game you won't forget anytime soon. Moving on to something quick, quirky and stylised. XIII is a first-person shooter that immediately stands out thanks to its bold comic book presentation. Cel-shaded visuals, on-screen sound effects and panel-style transitions give it a strong identity that separates it from more realistic shooters. The gameplay is classic FPS through and through, clear objectives, compact levels and straightforward gunplay that keeps things moving. The game was riddled with bugs and performance issues on launch, but for the most part it runs fine now, and it's just fun. It's not a perfect game, but the personality carries it a long way, and at £5.24, or the price shown on the graphic, it's a very affordable way to try something visually distinctive without a big time commitment. It is currently 85% off until December 25th in the UK and Europe, and even better yet, it is only $2.99 US or $3.44 Canadian until January the 9th in North America. Even cheaper. Love to see it. Jack Move is a turn-based JRPG with a cyberpunk setting and a deliberately streamlined design. Instead of sprawling overworlds or endless side systems, it focuses on clean pacing, readable combat, and a strong central story. Battles use a timeline system that rewards smart decisions without dragging things out. And it's great. The pixel art is sharp and expressive, and the soundtrack fits the setting nicely without overpowering it. Story-wise, it keeps things personal rather than sprawling, which helps everything feel grounded. It's a great example of a game knowing its scope and sticking to it confidently. And at £4.64, a 70% discount, it's excellent value for a polished RPG that respects your time and delivers a complete experience without ever overstaying its welcome. As I said, 70% off until January the 4th in the UK and Europe, and January the 10th in North America. And if you're looking for some strategic depth, Cobalt Core is a roguelike deck builder that mixes card play with tactical grid-based ship combat. What stood out to me immediately here is how readable everything looks. Positioning, timing, and anticipating enemy actions matter just as much as the cards you draw. This keeps every turn engaging. The runs are relatively quick, but there's real depth once you understand how different characters, decks, and upgrades interact. The writing adds real charm without getting in the way of gameplay, making repeated runs feel fresh rather than repetitive. There are hundreds of different character and ship combinations to untangle a narrative and unlock more playstyles as you go, which builds upon even more customization with the hundreds and hundreds of cards with split upgrade paths. It really is a brilliant game. It will cost you £13.19 or your currency's equivalent, a smaller 25% discount, but the quality here easily justifies the price. It's a thoughtful, well-designed tactical combat game with over 30 hours of gameplay, and is on sale until January the 6th in the UK and Europe, and January the 7th in North America. Black Book is a deck-building RPG rooted in Slavic folklore, blending turn-based card combat with branching dialogue and story-focused exploration, and honestly, it blew me away during my first playthrough. I really wasn't expecting such a fantastic experience, and despite the dark tone and beautiful yet simple expressive visuals, what really stands out is how much weight the game puts on atmosphere and writing. Conversations often feel just as important as the battles, and choices help shape how events unfold. The combat is tactical but intensely engaging, encouraging careful planning rather than brute force, and not at one point does anything feel forced upon you. It introduces its lore naturally, trusting you to absorb it through play instead of dumping exposition. The illustrated art style fits the tone perfectly and gives the world a distinct identity, and at £7.87 or your country's equivalent, I really cannot recommend this enough. It's thoughtful, story-rich, and a bit darker in tone, all encompassed by a story of love, loss, and sacrifice in a brilliant 25-hour experience. Black Book is 65% off until January the 4th in UK and Europe, and January the 10th in North America. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition is a huge open-world RPG that still sets a high bar for storytelling and quest design. But we all know this. Even on the Switch, it delivers deep side quests, memorable characters, and a world that constantly rewards exploration. It is one of the rare games that does not waste your time. Even the smaller quests tend to have interesting outcomes and meaningful choices. The Complete Edition obviously includes all of the major DLC, adding an enormous amount of content on top of an already massive game. The performance is obviously scaled back, but the portability makes a huge difference for a game of this size, and at £12.49 with a 75% discount until January the 11th in the UK and Europe, is honestly a good price. And hopefully we get that Switch 2 upgrade soon that we've seen with Skyrim and Red Dead Redemption. This is outstanding value if you want a long-form RPG you can slowly chip away at over time. This next game scratches that nostalgic itch. Crow Country is a survival horror game that leans heavily into atmosphere and deliberate pacing. Fixed camera angles, careful exploration, and limited resources keep tension high without relying on constant scares. It has a very restrained and claustrophobic feel. The game is happy to let silence and anticipation do the heavy lifting. Moving through environments always feels risky, even when nothing is happening, because resources are never guaranteed. The retro-inspired presentation balances nostalgia with modern clarity, making it easy to play while maintaining that classic horror feel. Combat is present, but never really too much. It's more about that sense of vulnerability. At £10 and 5p or your region's equivalent, Crow Country is 40% off until January the 13th in the UK and Europe, and it's a bit cheaper in North America with a 50% discount until December 26th. It's a solid deal for a horror game that feels intentional and focused, especially if you're in the mood for slow burn tension with a little PS1 era nostalgia. And pushing further into psychological horror, MADiSON is a first-person psychological horror game focused on exploration, puzzle solving, and sustained unease rather than the combat. What makes it effective is how patient it is. The game relies heavily on its sound design, lighting, and environmental storytelling to build tension naturally. Puzzles often require close attention to details and recurring symbols, which keeps you engaged with the environment rather than rushing forward. You will often find yourself not knowing the full story, but that uncertainty is part of the experience. The pacing allows the atmosphere to breathe, which helps maintain tension without burning you out. And at £8.99 or the price shown on screen, it's a strong pick if you're looking for a horror that focuses on mood and psychological pressure. And it's 70% off until January the 15th in the UK and Europe and January the 8th in North America. And hey, who said Christmas has to be jolly? And to close things out, we will go 3 for 3 with the horror. Heaven Dust 2 is a top-down survival horror game that leans heavily into classic design principles like limited resources, puzzle solving, and careful exploration. It's a methodical game where every decision matters, whether to fight, conserve ammo, or backtrack to solve a puzzle you couldn't figure out earlier. The combat is intentionally stiff, very reminiscent of the early Resident Evils, which this game has clearly taken inspiration from. Every action has you stop still to perform it, making every encounter feel risky. The level design encourages attention and planning, with shortcuts and item placement that reward careful exploration. It also balances the quiet moments with bursts of pressure and heavy combat, which helps maintain tension throughout the game. At £6.74 with a 50% discount, this is a fantastic traditional survival horror that is nostalgia-inducing, focused, confident, and well-paced with a tight, condensed 9-hour campaign. Heaven Dust 2 is 50% off until January the 10th in the UK and Europe and January the 8th in North America. And that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully, this list helps you spot a few great deals, or maybe uncovered something you hadn't considered before. As I said earlier, it isn't the most festive selection of games, but what can I say? I love horror, and just dark themes and atmospheres in general. Let me know in the comments if you have any festive recommendations I could add to my backlog, and be sure to like and subscribe for more eShop sales videos and general Switch news and reviews. Thank you all for the recent support, it's been pretty crazy. I wish you all a great Christmas and New Year, and here's to 2026. Thanks for watching, stay cozy, and I'll see you around.